All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Yes, my name is Philip, and this is my channel. Yes, so this has been long overdue. Yes, I mean I've always wanted an opportunity to actually talk about this Black Sherif album, Iron Boy, and I mean today we are going to do just that. Album was released on the 3rd of April, 2025. That's like last month, over a month ago. And I mean, you guys already know Iron Boy, it's Black Sherif's, sophomore album, following the critically acclaimed The Villain, I Never Was, which was like, I think 2022. I'm not too sure. Maybe you guys can let me in on that information, in the comment section. And whilst, the debut made us feel the hunger, and grit, of a young man, finding, his voice, Iron Boy, this album is something else entirely, if you ask me. I mean, I love the fact that, it's raw, it's unfiltered, reflection, of a young man, who's seen things, who's felt things and still believes in redemption. This project, spans 15 tracks, 15 songs, and ran just over 45 minutes. It's, to me, it's a mix of, Afrofusion, trap, drill, high life, and, I mean, straight up soul. The central theme of this album, Iron Boy, is resilience. That's just me. I don't know your take, but that is just me. It's about resilience, not the kind, you shout, from your rooftops, but the kind, whispered in the dark, when no one's watching. I mean, right from the, opening track, the victory song, Black Hole, lets us, into his spiritual and emotional world. I love the fact that, he speaks of battles, not just external, but internal. You can hear the tension between fame and faith. Trauma and then triumph. Lines like "trouble in my soul, war in my mind, keeping it together like the grown man that I am." I feel like that line. The lyrics, of that song, feel a bit poetic and painfully honest. There is a, spiritual undertone, running through the project. Not necessarily religious, but existential. I love the fact that, Black Hole questions purpose, he questions loss, loyalty, and self-worth, with an authenticity that, few artists, dare to touch, if you ask me. We definitely have to talk about the voice, because, Black Sherif's voice, to me is more than just an instrument. It's a character, raspy, impassioned, sometimes, cracking under the weight of his own emotions, and I mean, that's exactly the point. Whether, he's singing in Tree, English, or Pidgin, the emotions definitely cuts through. On songs like Smolby and then Rebel Music, which happens to be my favorite on the album, I mean, he uses, Black Sherif's voice, becomes a weapon, full of anguish and urgency. You can feel every word like, it was ripped, from a diary. Sonically, this album, Iron Boy, once again, is incredibly diverse but cohesive. Producers like, Joka Nana, Sam Snare definitely bring a wide, palette. The soundscape, balances, the minimalist, melancholic, guitar lines, with, cinematic, trap drums and haunting synths. One of the most striking tracks, on the album to me is So It Goes. A collaboration with Fireboy, DML from Nigeria, and I feel like this song is magical. It's definitely a reflective and almost psychedelic take on the passing of time, and the inevitability of pain. Meanwhile, Sensity featuring Shay Vibes, also brings a street, gospel energy that is both uplifting and ominous. What is so fascinating, is how Black Sherif is bridging cultures, without, compromising his roots. Iron Boy, this album is unapologetically Ghanaian in spirit, but globally accessible, in sound. His use of local dialect, isn't diluted, from the Western ear. Yet his themes are universal, survival, betrayal, the cost of ambition. It's no surprise, this album, broke, streaming records, in Ghana and entered Apple Music in USA top 50. That's not just hype. It's resonance. Definitely proves that when you are authentic, people from all corners of the world I mean, they will listen. Yeah. Now we have to be fair. Let's be fair. Is this album perfect? To me, no. No. At times, the emotional weight can feel a bit, overwhelming. There are a couple of, tracks, in the midsection, that, while lyrically deep, don't offer much, sonic, contrast. A few listeners, might crave more energetic and celebratory moments, to balance the emotional heaviness. But then again, maybe that's the point. This isn't a party album. It's a journal. It's not meant to be easy listening. It's meant to, make you sit with yourself. And one thing that I feel like was a downside for me was this song, When Them Boys. I feel like that song really, really demanded a feature. I thought that, this album is okay. Black Sherif's Iron Boy, is more than just a music project. To me, it's a declaration, of survival. It's poetic, it's gritty, it's so barren. If his debut album, introduced that to the pain of his past, Iron Boy, I feel like I wrestles, with the complexity, of his present, and the uncertainty of the future. I give this album a hard 8.5, out of 10. Not because it's flawless, but because it dares to go where, into the dark corners, of the soul and back, with something to say. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I've had time to listen to this album for over a month now. If you haven't heard the album yet, do yourself a favor and then listen to it with your heart, not just your ears. Yeah, that's just my thoughts. That's just my perspective about this Black Sherif Iron Boy album. So what do you think about this album? Did it hit you the way it hit me? Please drop your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know your favorite tracks, lyrics that stood out, or moments that made you stop and think. Yes. And if you enjoyed this review, let me know down in the comment section what album you would like for me to listen to and review on the channel. Yes. My name is Philip, and also the next album review. Take care, stay safe.